Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sideline Eye podcast. We're delighted to be back for a preview show, and we're looking ahead to the first round of the All Ireland group stages, and it's Armagh at home to Derry on Saturday evening. I'm delighted to be joined by former Derry footballer Joe O'Kane and more recently Dromintee football manager. So, Joe, you're a Derry man, currently in Armagh, so you're the perfect man to have on here. You know both sides of it.
As you say, look, man, Derry all my life and still Derry, man. Living in Down now is 10 years, and strangely enough, I've ended up coaching in Armagh for 4 or 5 years with Clonmore actually before over COVID. Brandy Donaghy would have been a cousin, so I'd always have a wee bit of a liking for Armagh anyway that way. And then down with Thomas Davis and Uri, a couple of years down there with them boys, great setup what they have going, and then with Dromintee, as you say, this year.
And as you say, you've been about Armagh club football the last couple of years, Joe. You get seeing all the teams throughout nearly all the different divisions there. What do you make of the standard, I suppose, Armagh club football?
I mean, there's no shock that Armagh county football is in the shape that it is, because the club football is really of a high standard. It was funny, a lot of ones that be asking, what's the difference between Derry club football and Armagh club football? Like, there's very, very little, between there's no massive big trends or whatever. It's every bit of competitive. It's not like club football was 20 years ago, Sean. The teams could beat teams by just being fitter than them. Every team's fit now. Every team understands what is needed. So even in talking to taking Thomas Davis there, like, fitness was your baseline. Even them boys. I don't mean to speak badly of junior football, but all the jokes about Junior 3B and all this carry on. It's not what it was. These teams are damn good football teams that maybe just with numbers struggle a wee bit to compete with teams and more established clubs. But it's the club football scene in Armagh is very, very strong.
In terms of new rules, Joe, obviously you're in coaching. Them we're all watching them at county level, and we're playing them at club level, seeing them at club level. How have you found it one side of it in terms of coaching it, and then I suppose just watching it from the sideline as well, like in terms of how the teams are adapting to them?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's completely, it's very, very different in terms when you're talking about county and club. I think, obviously with county, it's probably what the rule makers had in mind. Whenever you see the county teams playing, and there's, they seem to be adapting to it a wee bit more. The 3 up at the county level works well because there's many eyes on it. The clean catch is probably the one at the minute that I don't really like, the one in the middle where they're fielding it, and because it's in your nature, if a man catches it and you have that split second to not tackle him, whereas then it's a 13-meter free and it could be brought out for a 2-pointer. I think it's a harsh. I think possibly a free kick from when the catch is would have done, but I think that's probably one of the few that would have an issue with at club level, Sean. Like I sympathise with club referees, and I've talked to a few of them about it. The 3 up is nearly impossible to call. When you think about the logistics, they're watching the football. Everything's going this way. They're getting shouted at from the sideline and from that sideline about 3-3. Like, how do they keep up with both unless the player and the ball standing still? It's very difficult. And it's funny, we got the benefit of it against St. Peter's in the second half. It ran against us last week again, Cruppen in the second half. Now, anyone that I've seen, they've always been late on in the game where maybe the mental side of things is going a wee bit more, and maybe the play isn't as quick. But I think it's something they're going to have to look at if they want to really implement that at club level. They need more eyes. It's too tough for one man to try and police that. And the flip side of it is, you're trying to keep your sub bench and your managers quiet, but whenever they see the other team doing it, what's naturally going to happen is they're going to shout, and you run the risk of getting then a 13-yard free kick against you for the other team impeding. So it's something that I find it difficult. The rest of the stuff not too bad. I mean, I think it's the scores you see week in, week out, Sean, and when you're posting up the scores there, definitely have improved as far as I would like to see some sort of comparative to last year, maybe halfway through the league to see what the average scores are. But I think some massive scores going up right across the league. So yeah, they're not too bad. I just think later on in games you see when fellas lose the sort of the mental focus a wee bit and a retreat to type, you see that sort of been punished a wee bit more.
suppose in terms of the county game, Joe, we're looking ahead to the Armagh and Derry game, and unfortunately Armagh are going into the group stages once again after a tough defeat in the Ulster final. Probably the toughest, I would have said last year. It was impossible to come back from, and we know what they did. But this year is just gut wrenching as well for supporters and players and everybody alike, I'm sure. But I suppose going into it, as I mentioned, we've seen what they done last year. Do you see Armagh bouncing back this year again, or how difficult is it for them to sort of reset and go again?
I can only imagine how difficult it is for Armagh losing the three Ulster finals in a row in the state that they've lost them, and it's a massive mental come down to pick yourself back up to go into an All Ireland series. The only thing that's in their advantage is that none of them that they're getting beat off the field. Do you know what I mean? They're going right to the wire in every single one of them. Even you go back to the quarter final, was it 02 or 22?
Galway was 22.
Galway beat them in penalties or Monaghan? So it was
123.
yeah, and that was penalties as well. Like the time you need to go back a long way before Armagh were beat in 60 minutes, and beat well. That's the thing that Armagh's advantage is they know they don't need convincing that they're a top 3-4 consistently over the last 4 or 5 years team in Ireland. Never mind in Ulster. So if that we sort of thing always in the back of your head, knowing that they're good enough. The other huge, massive thing is home advantage, Sean. Like right through the National League, they didn't lose at home. I think one draw against Mayo, but apart from that, had pretty healthy wins, including giving Derry a right out scalping. So the Armagh support is well known for how vocal it can be. So the fact that that's at home, any sort of hangover from the Ulster final, once that Armagh team go out and hear the noise, I would be surprised if that isn't quickly forgot about and realise that they're back into another game of football.
In terms of home advantage, you say, Joe, all 7 of their league points were picked up at home. And obviously, I suppose we'll have to talk about the group of death because Armagh have Derry now, and it's nearly must win already in round 1 because they have to go to Dublin and meet Galway in a neutral venue, which we've seen the last couple of years how close Armagh and Galway have been. So it's nearly must win. And Derry's in the same boat because they've Dublin and Galway coming up.
Well, this is the thing. There's no doubt Derry will be targeting this game. Having been away and know that they were likely probably going to get either Armagh or Donegal in their group. Obviously not first, but you're looking at you're right. Derry's record against Galway wouldn't be great either. And Dublin are sort of nearly like Derry, where they're nearly finding themselves or lost a wee bit of loss of identity and don't really know where they're at. Although they've had a win of weeks to work on them, just as Derry have. Armagh will definitely be targeting Derry. I've no doubt about that. They'll be thinking that's a massive 2 points. And not only that, but it takes the pressure off the next game or two. Like as you say, Dublin and Croke Park, very few teams are going to go there and come out of points. And Dublin will be obviously targeting that for 2 points for them. And then they don't want to leave themselves in a situation where they were last year. And they've done well to get the point off Galway in the league, but could have very easily lost that game.
Yeah, it's a nuts group. Like as we knew that whether it was going to be Armagh or Donegal, it didn't matter. Joe, like it was going to be just an outrageous group. It's amazing that one of these 4 teams, was going to be out of the championship in 3 or 4 weeks' time.
Yeah, it is, but you're going to play. You want to play the best, Sean. At this stage, what you don't really want, I think, is getting through it without really being challenged, and then all of a sudden you're in a quarter final against the likes of a Kerry or a Tyrone or a Galway and going, we sort of weren't really tested that hard in the group. They know if they get out of this group that they're in a great position then to go on and push on and do very few teams do and retain an All-Ireland.
I suppose in terms of Derry, Joe, where are they? I suppose they've had 6 weeks off maybe now from the Donegal game. Like for Armagh, the 2-week break can be a good or a bad thing because you have injuries and sore bodies, I'm sure, and everything. But 2 weeks, you have to change your focus straight away. You can't linger, about the losing of the Ulster final. Well, Derry, 6 weeks is a long time, but then they had injuries, so maybe they've men back now. It probably depends who wins will decide either what was best.
Well, this is the thing, and I'll give Derry camp. I suppose like most county teams, you very little out of it. Like at the minute, there's no talk, and it's weird as it. There's very little talk even in Derry. They seem to once it was nearly an expectation that they were going to get beat by Donegal in Ulster Championship and go away and just regroup again and come back for the league stages here. So I don't know. It's you hear a couple of rumours saying they're going well, but how well can you base that off not championship football? Like, would you rather have been doing what Arma have done? Like Arma, wasn't an all one-sided affair against Antrim. Maybe turned out okay, but it was a tight enough game. Well, who did Armagh have as well? Tyrone, last kick of the game, and then Donegal. So they've got a lot of football and a lot of time there at a high intensity. Can Derry possibly manage that in challenge matches? Not really. So it's interesting to hear the rumours. Derry's usually doom and gloom, but the rumours are coming out that they're going rightly, and as you say, possibly a couple of people back. I think Clucky's maybe looking like he might be in contention. I think the big thing you talked about the rules earlier is the rules probably have suited this Derry side. The fact that they changed it to keep the 4 back, because a goalkeeper, like everybody knows, was an issue for Derry. Lynch, brilliant shot stopper, brilliant kick out, maybe limited enough from play. And then you've Nickel who come in there and obviously plays a lot of outfield for his club, but maybe struggled in the shot stopping department. So depends how Derry set up. If they're just going to throw Lynch in as an out and out goalkeeper, might suit them a wee bit better. But again, as I say, I've had very, very little from anybody from Derry about what's happening in Derry and what way they're going. So it could play to their advantage where they're coming under the radar and no one's really looking at them. It just depends on what to do when they turn up on the day. Now, I'll caveat this with this, Sean. The last time I wrote Derry off was in 22 against Tyrone, and they went in, blew them clean out of the water. So maybe just take what I say with a pinch of salt.
Like that's for Armagh fans. That's nearly the scary thing about Derry, is because the last 2 times they've met the league this year and the championship last year, Armagh it was a cakewalk. Like Armagh, probably that's where their season turned last year, was in Celtic Park. That that belief maybe to go on and win the All-Ireland. But you look through that Derry team, and as you said, maybe they've injured men back and stuff. Like if you have Brendan Rodgers, Conor Glass, Shane McGuigan, like you mentioned, Conor McCluskey. These are all-star players we're talking about. If they're playing well and in good form, like Armagh, it's a tough game.
Oh, it is massively. And like you've hit the nail on the head. These Derry footballers are still unbelievable footballers. On their day, they're still right up there if they can produce the goods with again top 3-4 teams in the country. Maybe slightly short on scoring forwards. If Shane McGuigan doesn't have a great day, where the other scores going to come from? But I mean, just Conor Glass and Brendan Rodgers, young McAvoy. They've got real quality right throughout the team if they can get it going together. And it's probably no harm to a lot of them boys that, no one's talking about them. Derry seem to perform better when they're not expected to perform well, and maybe not as good when people put their hopes on them. So, Derry under no illusions. They're going to go down into Armagh, and it's a hell of an ask to go to the All-Ireland champions' backyard where they haven't won in a while. And Armagh seem to be really made that their own backyard to very, very difficult to beat and pull a result out of. Any sort of result there would be great, but to get it, like you flip it, Sean, the other side. Derry haven't won a game in the National League all year, lost their only championship match. You go there and lose again, you're starting to really doubt yourself, thinking, when's this going to stop now with Galway and Dublin to stop us going through the full season here without winning a competitive game? So they have to throw everything at Armagh to see if they can stop that rut and get out of there with something.
And just you'd mentioned about maybe Conor McCluskey coming back. I think he hasn't played from the Kerry game last year. He missed the club championship and all last year, I think. Yeah. So if he's back, Joe, I'm trying to think of maybe matchups, and he would have the pace for Oisín Connolly. I think he'd be.
Oh, he probably would, and strong. Oisín Connolly, probably continues to be the best footballer. In terms of directness, skills, speed, he's got everything. He's a bit of a nightmare to try and mark, because sometimes when the speed's there, the strength isn't, and vice versa. He's got everything, and it's a big ask for Cluckie to come back first game, as you say, from Kerry, and to probably pick up at the minute the most informed player in the Armagh panel. You've Rodgers, you've McAvoy, all there, all fit and capable to maybe tail Connolly as well, but at the same time, then they're big players in terms of how Derry play, And if they're given a man marking role to keep him quiet, you're maybe robbing Derry of that too. So I wouldn't want to be in Ballytolly's shoes to try and do all the matchups, because it's well, again, the Armagh team, who do you not mark? You know what I mean? The way they're playing, they've scores from all over, and not only do you have to worry about the first 15, but then the 5 or 6 men that keep running off the bench that can win games for them need picked, need marked as well. And I don't know. I think possibly that's where Armagh at the minute have a massive advantage over most teams that they're going to play, in that McGinney's done a hell of a job understanding these fellas coming off the bench are all game changers. Like you won't see any of them been disappointed or anything. They all know they have a role to play, be it for half an hour, 20 minutes, or 5 minutes. Very few Armagh subs come on and don't make an impact. So I think that's possibly where they might have the edge over Derry, where Derry's bench mightn't just be as experienced or as capable as Armagh's would be to come out and perform on Saturday night.
It's just, I suppose, looking back to last year, I said maybe that was the game that gave Armagh the belief to go on and achieve what they did, but it was also the game that Niall Grimley and Barry McCambridge got in, and Barry was nominated for Player of the Year and Niall was nominated for an All-Star, so it's crazy the way somebody's year can turn like that. And there's players like Joe McElroy, Aaron McKay, we've seen Ryan O'Neill back the last day, Kieran Mackin, even, like, there's boys that haven't played a whole lot.
Stop talking, you're scaring me already, all these names.
If there's boys like this coming in, getting games, like Aaron McKay hasn't played all year, Ryan O'Neill hasn't either, Joe McElroy very little. So if they're coming in, and I'm not sure how they are in terms of injuries or their comeback trail, but if you get some boys like this coming in, and again strengthens your bench, Joe, for whoever's dropping into the bench.
Massively so. And like, you think if things are tight and 10 minutes to go and Ryan O'Neill's been let loose off the bench, or Joe McElroy's off the bench, or these fellas that have All Irelands and stuff in their back pocket, that's going to lift the team, and if you're Derry, look at that going, now we'll have to deal with this, and maybe out your feet a wee bit. You're 100% right. Like, one of the things that's really impressive about Armagh over the last 5-6 years is that they've seemed to have kept more or less the same squad, but peppered with different names that are nearly plucked out of don't know where, but they're all brilliant footballers, and they all keep, whenever they get a chance, all seem to be able to perform at that level. There's no one coming in and then after 3-4 weeks going away again, and this, they don't have that. They have a great harmony and a great competitiveness on the county squad, and whether you're number 1 or whether you're number 30, you might get a chance at some stage, and most of them seem to be taking it.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing for Armagh. You say, Joe, there's these players that do come in, but when they do come in, like, they grasp their opportunity. Darragh McMullen has played, if he hasn't played every minute, he has played every game this year. And Callum O'Neill was probably one of Armagh's best players of the championship. Thomas McCormick didn't probably just the matchups didn't work for him in the Ulster final, but again, somebody that really stood up during the league.
Oh, massive. Like McCormick, you mentioned, I think it's unbelievable what he's done over the last couple of seasons, from a corner back to be, have the confidence of getting forward, does exactly, anytime you see Armagh attack and droves, it's a joy to behold. It's funny, I was thinking about the Ulster final, and people go into analysis an awful lot, and it's nearly overanalyzed a lot of times, but you could see it clearly from the gameplay. Both Armagh and Donegal were nearly setting up with quite happy to let the other team, once they had the ball, just get back to your D. Just get back and get your D in. It's one wee concern that I would have of Armagh. Like, again, I'm no guru when it comes to the county football, but watching Armagh, when they attack, when they're chasing games and they're going full blooded and the support left, right, and front, they're unbelievable. They're very, very difficult to stop. Whereas sometimes they nearly wait till they're behind and have to play like that before they play like that. Which you would think, if McGinney could get that team thinking they're 10 points down before the first whistle, they would go out and they would steamroll teams for 60 minutes at times. And I know, it's county football and they're not going to be on top all the time, but sometimes the football they play is unbelievable, but they've left it nearly too late to start playing like that. If you know what I mean, that's probably the wee thing that I would be saying from Derry. Like, this team, they can be at, because sometimes their mentality side of it does flicker a bit, and when it does, we have to strike.
Just before I wrap up, Joe, I always finish my podcast with a prediction. Do you see? Well, I suppose we don't know how both teams. We talked about the 2-week break and the 6-7 week break. Like, we don't know what teams are going to be in, what the form's like, injuries. They don't know the starting 15s or the subs benches, so it's a pretty impossible prediction to make. But how do you see it all panning out?
Listen, as I say, last time I backed it against Derry, the one, so I might have to do it the same again. Listen, as I say, I would love to see. I don't think it's going to be as massive a one-sided game as what people think. Probably, it's nearly same with the Antrim game. I remember saying a couple of ones, but like not that it backed Antrim, but people at Antrim wrote off a long time before Armagh game had ever played, and it's you don't really get that at the minute in time anymore in county football. And if Derry can keep into it with the last 15 to go and give themselves a wee bit of belief, listen, the footballers there to get a result. I've no doubt about that. But I just think the way Armagh have conducted themselves over the last 3 or 4 years, they've went to the wire with so many games, they've went to extra time with so many games, they just don't give up. And it'll stand to them, like 7 points down again, Donegal in Ulster final, and come back and probably should have beat them had they taken their goal chances when they come. To go down to Armagh in the athletic grounds against a team that know where they're at, have their identity sorted, don't have any doubts over them, I think it's a tall order for Derry to get a result, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, I think we're all the listeners for this podcast anyway are hoping that it's an Armagh win and get them up and running after a heartbreaking defeat in the Ulster final, another one. So that game's on Saturday night. So as usual, we'll be right across at previews, match reports, interviews, everything else. We're continuing our club stuff as well, with all our previews, match reports, league tables, fixtures, and everything else weekly. So keep an eye out on all our social media pages and subscribe or to our YouTube channel and our Spotify page or wherever you get your podcasts. So we'll be back next week. We'll have another show hopefully after the Armagh and Derry game, and that'll be released maybe Saturday night or Sunday. So Joe, brilliant to hear from you. Thanks very much for coming on, and I'll chat to you again.
Thanks, Sean. Cheers.
As a player of the Armagh GAA senior football team, I'm excited to share that you could win this house in Uri for £200,000 for only £20, and you'll be supporting the future of Armagh GAA in the process. Can we get the hoof it down there now?